Welcome to the Empowering Choices podcast. My name is Joshua.
I am Lucas.
And I'm Eric.
Lucas and Eric are licensed professional counselors, and today we're going to be reacting to some videos of the YouTuber, vlogger, and self-proclaimed parenting expert Ruby Franke.
So someone that we might have described as our competition. I think she's been kicked out of the race recently.
True.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
something to, what would be, you get, an athlete gets kicked out,
Right.
for breaking the rules in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So some people may have never heard of Ruby Franke.
Right.
Some may have. Just the brief synopsis. I used to watch I still watch a ton of YouTube. YouTube is my cable TV. And so I've watched some people like Ellie and Jared and some different family vloggers, and this is actually their sister. And so there's this whole family that makes all these family vlogs, and that's kind of a whole debated topic and everything. But Ruby Franke is their sister who started vlogging, but then started creating parenting advice, and then linked up with a business partner who they started creating parenting advice. And both her and the business partner are
Big trouble.
Felony child abuse charges is the words you're looking for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I think she's been charged.
Right.
I don't think there's been a conviction or nothing's been processed or
She's
pending.
She has not been convicted. No one has been convicted. They have been charged.
But yeah, it does. I listened. Have you guys heard the 911 call?
No, only teeny tiny clips of it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds pretty bad. So basically,
because one of her kids left her house and went to the neighbors, right?
Yeah, and basically they're describing that here's this kid that has duct tape and bruises around the wrist, like they've been tied up, and they look malnourished, and like they haven't been fed, and the caller actually kind of like breaks down just trying to describe to the 911 operator what he's seen. And then they say that this has been like an ongoing concern or problem. So, and even her sisters said that she needed to be arrested. They released a statement. And
that's not a good sign.
Yeah. And they just said that they hadn't mentioned this for the sake of trying to protect the kids or whatever, which I'm not sure what all that's about.
We're going to protect the kids by not alerting the authorities as regards to...
Right. Okay. And so then they say that that she needed to be arrested. So, but they're all YouTubers themselves, so you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But I'm really eager to get into this because I would be curious what you guys have to say as professional counselors about some of these clips, because I think like everything, there's always a little bit of good and the bad, and then there's bad and the good. And so we'll just kind of take a couple of these clips, look at it, and then kind of get a reaction to it. So here we go.
Just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
Okay, so the age-old forgot the lunch.
So do we have any idea how old the child in question is that she's referring to? It's her daughter, I presume.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, in a next clip or a couple clips down, she has a daughter in there with a different name that seems, at least in junior highs. Yeah. I'm going to assume that this girl is in grade school, probably. Is kind of what it sounds.
The internet says she was born 2013.
Quick, do the math.
And this is 2023. 10. So, yeah, so she's 10.
Yeah, she's right.
Or whenever that was recorded. Yeah, so at least 10 or younger.
At that time, she's 4th, 5th grade, somewhere in there. I'm all for natural consequences.
That's what this is talking about. This is an example of a natural consequence.
Kind of. I'm all for natural consequences, but you've got to be smart. I mean, there are natural consequences. I mean, if your
Right.
kid is going to cross the street without looking both ways, a natural consequence, as bad as it is that they can get hit.
Right.
I'm not for that. I'm, there are places where parents need to intervene. Yes, I'm all for. I want to help my kids become independent. So if we're doing lunches and you're taking lunches and you're responsible, in grade school to pack your lunch, great. It's a wonderful exercise, training, helping them get ready. But they're also in grade school.
Right.
And so you've got to remember that they are going to forget at times. They may even forget their lunch. Now, you may say, what about homework? What about gym shorts? What about shoes? None of those things are going to leave them physically hungry throughout the day, causing a problem in their learning for themselves and the rest of the environment. When my son would forget his lunch at times, we would take him a lunch, and we had this brilliant idea. Let's put money on the books at school so that on the times where he forgot his lunch, he could just get in the hot lunch line. And so, because it's all a part of it, know, and there's other ways to be able to work with that. Not every learning experience has to have consequences. We all go through this. You can do learning where you don't have some harsh consequence that is supposed to, influence that learning to be better next time.
Right.
And doesn't put you in trouble with the law.
Right. So would you say some of this is like based on the age then of the child, as where maybe if a kid's in junior high and they're forgetting these things, they're older and they could push through and it's not the end of the world. But if they're in 4th grade, you can't let a kid go without food.
So let's get into junior high. How much farther are you getting into junior high? That's 6th grade.
I mean, I wasn't much farther, but
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't much farther either. If you wanted me to pack a lunch throughout my, which was 7th and 8th grade, I would have been very, very hungry. And my friends would have been very, very upset because guess whose plates I'm eating off of?
Right.
Okay. Now you get into high school.
Yeah.
And like when I was in high school, you bought tickets, know, and then you gave tickets when you got into the lunch line.
lunch
Was
at
it the
work.
kind
For
they
the-
punch or?
No,
those.
you gave.
We had like when you had
physical
actually
raffle
punch up
tickets.
with for the week.
No, this was an actual
Okay.
ticket, like you're at a carnival or something.
yeah.
Little
And
raffle thing.
Yeah, a little raffle thing. And my mom bought, my lunch tickets for the month. And about 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half, I went back and I said, hey, I need to get more lunch tickets. And she looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, my buddy Jay, he doesn't have a lunch. And so I've been helping him with that.
So you were solving his lunch problem.
I thought she would be so proud of me. She was not.
She was not proud of me.
We're on a budget, okay? So we have a discussion. I understand now. I don't get to give away lunch tickets. And as my mom is a very compassionate woman, but we're on a budget, okay? So I made a determination. I have food at home. Jay doesn't. He didn't have. He was very, 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 very poor. And so I thought, you know what? My mom said I can't give away the lunch ticket, but she didn't say I couldn't give half my lunch away. And I can go home and immediately get a snack. And so in high school, I made that type of a cognitive decision for myself, and Jay ate half my lunch for a year. But if my mom made that decision in grade school, and so, I mean, even Ruby is saying here, look, I hope nobody helps her out.
Right.
I hope no one gives her food. Really? You really think that none of her classmates are going to slip her an apple or half a sandwich? Or the teacher is not going to go, don't tell your mom, but I think there might be something over there in my desk that I just forgot about. You're not, the learning, no learning is going to really happen around this. Really falls into severe behavioral management.
The word I was thinking of was harsh.
Yes.
There's some principles here of natural consequences, and those are good principles in your parenting. But I think the word we're looking for is, you said, severe or harsh.
Yeah.
She's taken the needle and went all the way over.
And it kind of reminds me of something you guys have talked a lot about, but just the idea that kids are kids and not many adults, and the sense of that this is kind of like adult treatment in a way for a third or fourth grader,
Right.
versus going, yeah, this is a kid. This is what kids do, and as a parent, sometimes we help them. Versus, you should have known,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You should have known better. You can just go hungry.
Right.
It's not, well, I mean, do you want her to get good grades? Are you going to punish her for that next? It's not a smart thing.
Right.
Well, I think we have some more examples of some other things this lady has done.
So in this one, I'm not sure, but I think the kid maybe was wetting the bed or whatever.
Oh,
and so
the clip doesn't have context.
Yeah, so I think this is the solution. But regardless of what the reason is, here's the solution.
And a blanket, put a pillow and a blanket by the toilet, and you can camp out in the bathroom, okay? Do you want to do that?
Do you want Grandma to sleep on the floor with you?
No.
Okay.
All right. So
We're taking this at face value because we don't know anything around this situation. I can't imagine that the kid had said, "Listen, I kind of want to do a sleep out,
in
somewhere
the bathroom.
in the house.
Yeah.
Let's practice camping."
If it was the backyard, I might buy that one.
Yeah, and my first question is, why is Grandma just going along with this? Do you want Grandma to sleep with you? My grandma would have handed my dad his head right there. I'm telling you. My other grandma would have handed my mom her head right there. That's just, what are you doing? You don't do that. And if it is for wetting the bed, you're not going to get anything that you're trying to get. This is, again, extreme type of behavioral management, harsh type of behavioral management. And it doesn't work in the effectiveness that you're trying to get it to do.
Well, then wetting the bed, I feel like it feels like it's kind of a noodly problem to solve, because like the kid's asleep a lot of the time.
Right.
And so like
It's not even his.
Punishing the child for something they're doing while they're literally unconscious is probably not the approach you want to be taking.
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help train the subconscious of the human being to be able to hold things or wake the person
Or wake up. Yeah.
And so when potty training is first going into place, and then, even extending up into, this young man's age, parents a lot of times will come in and wake up the child.
Right.
Yeah.
You control the amount of liquids before going to bed, understanding that their bladder is maybe the size of a pea. Not really, but it feels like that. And there are such new technologies now that even just a slight drop of liquid on the sheets sets off an alarm that can either be for the child or the parent to be able to then go to the bathroom.
yeah.
There are so many different ways, because all you're trying to do is train the subconscious. This will not train the subconscious.
Right.
This only punishes the boy, where he's just looking at going like, what did I do?
His face, I mean, he nods after mom asks him a question, but his face, nothing's getting in.
Yeah.
Well, and the little girl, his sister, when grandma says, "Do you want grandma?" She's like,
She's shocked.
when did that become an option?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like they do have interesting sleeping arrangement issues. This next video sort of underplays that a little bit.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is.
He doesn't
the
even
reason
remember.
that's in my
Right.
head. It's pretty funny, but now I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
And then I walk out.
if you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Russell got
He
the big
absolutely
bedroom
thinks
and
it is.
Chad got the smaller bedroom. And
Smaller.
Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room. Abby.
So so what do you guys?
So their
think of
sleeping arrangements, even on a good day, is this kid got a bedroom, this kid's sleeping on the floor in the family room. And that's that's just indicative of their house.
Well, I'm just going to say, that was freaking funny.
Oh,
that was
the
yeah,
idea
what
the
he pulled
kid
on his
had.
what he
brother.
did to his brother was funny. When I first saw that, I'm laughing. And as you notice, he's telling it. Other family members off camera are laughing.
Right.
And
So
I'm
it
gonna
is funny.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Grandma is one of those voices that I'm hearing and talking about this, and they're laughing. And it's not till he gets to the end that Mom's like, "Well, maybe if you think it's still funny, you shouldn't have got your bedroom back." And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's not funny."
But then you see him laughing like, I think the
Right.
video got clipped or something. But
Now, granted, if my son woke up the other son and did that same sort of thing, would there be a little bit of a consequence? Yes, because you want to kind of cap some of those things. Right. It's funny, and that's one of those things that as parents you're laughing away from them, not with them.
Right.
And you want those things not to happen because kids have a different brain and where that could go. It's kind of like in basketball. You want to clamp down on the fouls quickly, or where's that going to go? Put a bunch of men in there and they get away with, swinging at each other. That's never going to go well. But the punishment, as we talk about in the parenting manual, punishment fit the crime. It needs to fit the crime. That one didn't fit the crime.
what do you think if you had a boy living in your house who'd done that? You said, I think that we should try to squelch that behavior. She took his bedroom away for 7 months. You think that's too harsh? Where would you have landed?
I'd have started with the boy and said, let's talk about this. Because, first of all, I see what you did. And yes, you see me kind of smiling. I can see the humor. Now let's talk about where this could go if this was the way you guys joked with each other. Okay.
And it accelerated or
Yeah,
continued.
right. Let me help you explain what happened if your brother would have not stopped. What happened if your brother, so you're going through those scenarios and you're talking, in a logical piece, put in some emotional components to where he could understand, okay, this might have been more dangerous than funny. And I would finish it probably with saying, okay, this time I'm going to kind of let this go with, we talked about this, and yes, that's funny, and you'll have a story, you and your brother can kind of work with. And I might be talking with a brother going, no payback, because this is another part of this. I'm giving your brother kind of a free thing here. And, you're reading that situation. If the brother is really, really upset, maybe he loses his, phone for a day or something like that as a consequence. It's going to be something that will fit that crime. My main vehicle is, let's talk about this. Because if you as a parent can't sit down and talk to your kid about what the situation was, then they're not going to learn anything. That boy does not think that there was anything wrong with what he did, and I'm not saying that there was, but he doesn't have any idea of what could have happened as to why not to do something like that in the future.
Right. And I mean, part of the way that I view that, because I always like being a jokester, but part of what you have to learn as a jokester is you have to learn, what is it if I'm the other person who's being joked and I really thought we were doing that? How does that make me feel? And then one of the things that you can be taught as a jokester is to still pull jokes, but then still have a good thing for the person that you pulled the joke on, so that it's not the end of the world, and that you're not essentially. So it's very fascinating. It looks like she really likes to play with the basics, like the food, clothing, and shelter. I don't know if there's clothing things, but so far we've seen food. Food and shelter are things that are pretty much known that
personal space.
Yeah, she likes to try to withhold. So
yeah, it's definitely, she goes for those big hardcore clubs.
Yeah. So here's our last clip, and I think that what's going on here is the daughter had been cutting things or something.
She says, yeah.
Here we go.
If you cut one more thing in my house, we're chopping its head off. I'm going to take the scissors. Look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
So what are you going to do?
Are you going to cut anything else? No.
You promise? Look at Mama.
This clip makes me think of what you were talking about the whole family vlogging. Just, is that a good idea at all? Regardless of what she says, right?
Yeah.
Because you can tell there's at least 1 or 2 kids behind her who's holding the camera.
Yep.
And then there's, I think, grandma who's behind the
someone
kid.
That's what I was just wondering. Is that grandma?
I don't know
Well,
what the deal
someone in the clip says grandma will be so mad.
Right.
And so I'm not sure if that's the same lady or not.
Right.
But I mean, just almost regardless of what the kid's being punished for or the harshness of her punishment, it's being made a public spectacle that's being put on the internet, that there's like, you can hear commentary in the background. One of the kids jumps the gun and says, we're going to cut its head off. And then somebody giggles.
Right.
And so there's just this whole, it feels just like a circus.
Yeah.
And that's the family vlogging controversy, regardless of her parenting techniques. And it just feels like it puts all of that on display. You put your kid crying on the internet for views.
Right.
Like, I don't know if that's necessarily.
Right. I mean, it's the absolute opposite of the old adage, in what happens in the family stays in the family.
And the person, like, this isn't the original. Somebody clipped this and like blocked the kid's face out.
Yeah.
But in the original,
it would have.
It was not blocked.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and you guys are the counselors, but my just kind of layman's interpretation and thinking about my child and other children of that age, like, to me, cutting the head off of a beloved stuffed animal is like probably just never okay at that age. I mean, it's just
right,
so,
because how old is this child?
It's traumatic,
right?
Yeah,
4?
and so no matter what they did, like, that is like gruesome in my opinion.
My son, who's 22, brought me his. It's about that size. It's a little penguin. It's called Pengy. And he's had it since he was like 3. And he brought, he's like, I found Pengy, you know,
in a basket or something.
Yeah, you can see that the attachment is there.
Right.
You know, I was in my 20s when my mom got rid of all of my childhood toys that were in the toy box at her house, including the teddy bear that I got when I was born. To which, you know, there was attachment. I didn't talk to her for a couple of months.
Yeah. I still have all of those.
See?
They're in my house.
Right.
Like the teddy bear that has the bite marks that like I chewed on its eye.
Exactly.
Yeah, I still have that.
Yeah, fortunately I have other toys that she didn't get rid of. But to think, my first question is, if your child has this issue of cutting, how do they have access to the scissors?
That was my first question. Where are the scissors and why does the yeah, exactly.
And I'm assuming scissors.
Right.
Knives cut.
I mean, I don't think they drove down to Walmart themselves and got it.
I mean, I'm going to guess that because she's pantomiming scissors in her little interaction. I'm guessing it's the kid with scissors.
So why does she have access? Because I can tell you what, when I was going through a cutting phase, or my brother was going through a cutting phase, and this is at a time where you had monster sharp sewing scissors, that monster sharp household scissors. I mean, what you buy now is nothing compared to, you know, the 2-foot, you know, metal shear made out of steel, sharpened forever, could, scissors. You know, cut through steel, you know, type thing. That was nothing compared to what we had then. And guess what? We had to ask for the scissors.
Because they weren't in easy access wherever that meant.
Our parents were like, no, we're going to know what you're cutting.
Yeah.
Right.
We're okay with you cutting, but we're going to know what you're cutting.
Right.
And so why do you need those? Now you need those. Great. Bring it here. We're at the table. Let's go. You're going to sit here. We're going to watch you. We'll help you even. You know, let's work on those fine motor skills. But I mean, there weren't scissors to just go get and cut things up. Right. You know. And it makes me wonder, because I mean, like you said, her siblings are like, we're going to cut its head off. Well,
they're
they have the
excited
scissors
about
too.
Yeah.
You know. And no one's correcting anyone. I mean, when I'm working with kids, and I'm not doing this, but if I'm talking to them about something and somebody goes, we're going to cut its head off, we're stopping right there and go, oh, you come up here too. Yeah. Well, let's talk about this. First of all, no. And if the head goes off, guess who did it? You know, we're going to be talking again. Don't do that. It's a much more directive verse. Right. I'm going to just go straight for the thing you love the most to make you stop your behavior. I'm going to guess Ruby would say, well, I did all those other things and she still wouldn't stop. And I'm going to go, how does she get the scissors?
Right.
You know, there's ways to do this.
Yeah, that video is almost like a race to the bottom. Like, how quick can we all just spiral this?
I think that, because I mean, I think what both of you just said is, I'm going to go to the biggest, most bottom core thing.
Harsh.
Harsh. That's the theme that we've been seeing is there's some ideas behind what she's doing that it's like, okay, like I can understand what you're attempting, but you turbocharged it and you flamethrowered your kid.
Yep.
And you just cooked them. And it's like, okay, you needed to have dialed that back by about 75% to have gotten somewhere like reasonable.
Right. You know, and going back to, you know, the first video where she's talking about the food and her kid forgot it, you know, one of my kids, you know, when they got into middle school, I just very nicely took them aside and said, okay, listen, I know that you struggle forgetting things. I'm figuring you're going to forget a few things probably as we're starting here in middle school. You're going to forget probably some of your gym clothing. You're going to forget probably some of your homework. You're going to forget probably sometimes your library books. So I just want you to know ahead of time what this is going to look like. This first week is kind of a freebie week. We will bring you things when you've forgotten them. We're not encouraging you to forget them. We're just saying, listen, I want you to try really hard, but we're going to help you out in this process during this first week.
Right.
In the next week, we might help a little bit, but only probably in the beginning. In the third week, we're not going to help at all. So whatever the school's consequences are for forgetting those things, and we even said, and that doesn't include lunch, you know, because all their lunches we'd pay for that. They were just doing hot lunches. But we know that you can do this. And so here's how we're going to help you in this process. Sorry, got distracted by a dog out the window. Not even a squirrel. I think he was chasing the squirrel.
Yeah.
And so first week, it was kind of, you know, he was kind of 50-50 on, oh, I remembered, oh, I called, can you bring it? You know, unfortunately, we only live half block away. You know, second week in the beginning, he's calling a little bit and we're reminding him and we bring things down a little bit. And then we're like, okay, you know, we're not going to bring anything down. The rest of that week, he's calling and begging and saying, oh my gosh, I'll have in-school suspension. I'll have lunch detention. And we're like, man, that sucks.
Right. You very well might.
How can we help you set up something to help you remember when we see you tonight for the next day? The third week, he forgot twice his homework and his gym clothing. And suddenly I see him bursting in the door and he bursts past me into his room and he comes back because I was in the kitchen and he goes, I forgot this.
He was like on his way out the door and reversed
and he
course.
ran back. Yes. You know, so he had already made it to school. He realized what he forgot. He ran back home. He ran back there. After that, for the rest of the year, there may have been one or two, maybe half a dozen times at the most where he said, yeah, I had in-school suspension because I forgot this. But for the most part, especially when you got to the last 4 months of school, he didn't forget anything.
So he had the capabilities given the circumstances and whatever coping skills he used. Some of it was just his own neurons in his brain being strengthened to help remember things.
Which is very human.
Exactly.
That's the thing we all go through. He even had, you know, certain diagnosis and disabilities. And yet even with any of these things, my first thought of a human being is you can do things. Now let's find out what supports you need.
Right. Let's assume great things
Yep.
and work towards it and then see if that's reasonable or not.
Exactly.
So to summarize today, would you guys, where would you rate her overall parenting advice and skills?
Too harsh.
Don't listen to her.
Okay, there you go. So we do hope, though, that you will check out our parenting app. It's in the App Store, and it's all counselor-created materials. And so we've poured a lot of time and effort into creating both text courses and video courses. And so there's a variety of things there. You can get that via the app. You can get that via our website at empoweringchoices.community. And we hope that you will check that out, and we will see you on the next episode.